Okay. Charles asked a question that's filled with debate, okay? I'm looking for some ideas on kettlebell training this winter to improve my VO2 max. I mountain bike a lot during the rest of the year, along with kettlebell training and steel mace. But in the winter months, I notice a drop in my work capacity, especially cardio. I'm also 43, so I get it. And I appreciate you understanding what you said there, but would still like to do my best to keep it up. So years ago, I invited a bunch of people over to my house, and a book came out, and a very, very, very famous person, I showed this book to them, and they slammed the book down on my table, which kind of broke my heart because it was a brand new book. And he said, "This is all crap from a bull." I want to share the sensitive listeners' ears when I say that. And what was nice about it, it was such a public display of disgust that we actually started a conversation. And he made several good points. And these guys are mountain climbers and bicyclists and a bunch of other fields, areas I really don't know as much as I should, I guess. And they all agreed about something important. Years ago, they did a study of basketball players, and they discovered that basketball players' VO2 maxes were terrible. Well, I got to tell you from the heart, folks, anybody who's ever been around professional basketball players, when you look at them play, when you look at them move, how can their VO2 max numbers be terrible? Well, they tested these guys, these basketball players, on bicycles. Now, I don't know why schools don't hire someone like me to point out the obvious all the time. Not a lot of bicycles fit NBA players because NBA players are freakishly big. Moreover, and I even followed up on this with a couple of my friends who were in the league at the time, I said, when you were a kid, did you have a bicycle? Well, a lot of the guys from inner cities were like, well, no, because if you had a bicycle, it wouldn't last long. It would get stolen. So a number of the people said in the responses back is that I don't know how to bicycle. It was never part of my life. Now, having said that, it breaks my heart. Two of my basketball playing friends both died after their careers were over in bicycle accidents. And one of my students years ago died in a bicycle accident too. He was killed in one of our southern states and by some drunkens, and the police decided never to follow up on it, which breaks my heart. But VO2 max is extremely specific. Now for you, Charles, being on a bicycle and doing those VO2 max things you see online all the time, probably might, boy, that's convincing, probably might. There's a solid word. Now, your question is, can doing things in the kettlebell world increase your VO2 max? The test would have to be really well designed, but if we're going to look into this, we would need to have you do like kettlebell snatches, which is a good exercise to get your heart and lung. I mean, you really turn into a freight train doing 200 snatches in 10 minutes with a 24 kilo bell. I know it. I've done it. It's tough. The question would be, would doing that Secret Service snatch test carry over into your biking? So in this test, we're gonna have this group here, learn kettlebells. You have to all be bicyclists. We're gonna have a group that doesn't do kettlebells and only does bicycles. And you can already see it's gonna be kind of convoluted, okay? So the test is gonna be interesting because we're gonna have a group that just does bicycles and does the VO2 max on a bicycle. We're gonna have a group that does kettlebells only and then still tests on a bicycle. And this all has to be done with before and afters. And there'll have to be a third group that does kettlebells plus bicycles and then does the bicycle VO2 test. And then probably a fourth group, I'll do this one, doesn't do anything and then tests VO2 max. Is this gonna work? Well, I think there's some real value in doing kettlebells for your bicycling. As I've mentioned many times on my podcast, James, whose website is bikejames.com, been to my house many times, got some great pieces on using kettlebells for mountain biking. Also using isometrics on his kettlebells. He emphasizes the hard style 3, the goblet squat, the swing, and the Turkish get-up. And I applaud it. I really think that's a good idea. Charles, for you, I would probably an idea I want you to think about is using the kettlebell as your off-season armor building, using the kettlebell as a way to get yourself in that general training model. You want to come out of it a little leaner, strong in funny places that we used to say dad strength when the internet used to show up. Just want to be kind of weirdly strong at things. If you've ever been around wrestlers, that wrestler strength, farmer strength, whatever, and not worry too much about getting the VO2 max from the kettlebell. Is there going to be some carryover? Oh yeah, if you're conditioned, yeah, no question. Because the bigger you make your general training, generally, the more it helps. It's not perfect, the model I use, and I know that, and I've always known that, but you're trending towards pretty good with the idea of using kettlebells properly and using the bicycle properly. I think you're edging yourself into the right direction. Okay? Thank you. It's a good question, okay?